Welcome back. We're going to continue taking our notes on base 10 exponents. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and pause the video and take out your graph paper. Make sure you have your lines on there for your Cornell notes. And once you have that done, copy down today's learning goal into the top section of your notes. Today's learning goal is that students will be able to use math facts, basic math facts, and base 10 exponents to multiply by a two-digit number. We've already learned that as numbers get larger, it sometimes becomes difficult to multiply them using mental math. And we're going to use a strategy that'll help us use our properties of operations that we've already learned, combine it with some basic math facts, and help us multiply some of these larger numbers. Often in math, when we have a more complex problem, it's easier to work out some examples to illustrate that problem. So we're going to do that with today's lesson. So we're going to look at a larger number like 300 times 20. We can use the basic math fact of 3 times 2 is equal to 6 to get us started. And as we move through this, we're going to look for a pattern. So we add a 0 to the 3, and that gives us 30 times 2, and we know that's equal to 60. We add another 0 to the 3, that gives us 300 times 2, and that equals 600. And then we add a final 0, this time behind the 2, which gives us 300 times 20. And if we work that out, we'll see that that equals 6,000. Look at that progression that you see there on the screen and see if you can come up with a rule that will help us, that we could use to apply to other problems to help you come up with that rule. There's some things I'd like for you to notice. First of all, we know that if we add 0 to either of the factors in our multiplication problem, we know that our answer is going to increase by 10. So when we added the 0 to 3, we got 30, and then we knew that the 6 in our answer would go from 6 to 60. We also saw that each time we added another 0 to either of the factors, we saw that the answer increased by a multiple of 10 again. So we kept adding zeros to our answer. Let's work another example and see if that'll help us come up with a pattern. In this example, we're going to add 1 0 to one of the factors, and we're going to add 3 zeros to a second factor. And the question is, how many zeros after the basic fact answer will we have in our final answer? So we're going to set up a sample problem to test that. So our sample problem says that one of our factors is going to have 1 0. So in our made up problem that we're making up to solve this, we're just going to use a number. So we're going to use the number 30. Our problem also says that the other factor has 3 zeros, so we're going to use the number 4,000. So in our sample problem, the one that we're going to use to try to come up with a pattern, we're going to use the sample problem 30 times 4,000, and we're going to use the basic fact to solve that of 3 times 4 equals 12. So we're going to use a similar pattern in order to solve that. We add a 0 to the 3, that gives us 30 times 4 is equal to 120. We add a 0 to the 4, So 30 times 40 is 1,200. We add another 0 to the 4, so we have 30 times 400 is 12,000. And we add the final 0 to the 4, so we have 30 times 4,000 is 120,000. So we can see that the answer is 4 zeros will be added to the basic fact of 3 times 4 equals 12. So again, we're looking for a rule or a pattern that we can use in order to solve some of these larger numbers. Another way of looking at it is to look at it in expanded or exponential form. So if we take our 30 times 4,000, we can write it in expanded form, which is 3 times 10 times 4 times 1,000. We can change those tens, or the multiples of 10, we can change them into their exponential form. 10 is 10 to the first power, and 1,000 is 10 to the third power. Now we can use the associative property and regroup. So we put the 3 times 4, which we know is our basic fact, and it's equal to 12. And then we can combine our base 10 numbers, 10 to the first power and 10 to the third power. When we solve those, the 3 times 4 is 12, the 10 to the first power times 10 to the third power is 10 to the fourth power. And then when we expand it back out and turn it into standard form, we see our answer is 120,000. So let's work some practice problems, see if we can apply our pattern that we see and solve some of these problems. The first of our practice problems, we want to know what basic fact would we use in order to solve the math problem 5 times 800. Our second practice problem is to write 800 in its exponential form. Our third practice problem is to write the expression that equals 5 times 800 using exponential form. Our fourth practice problem is to use the associative property to change the grouping of your answer in number 3. So when you get an answer for number 3, then you're going to change the parentheses around in order to change the grouping, which is the associative property. And the fifth of our practice problems is to write your answer to 5 times 800 in standard form. So pause the video now, answer these questions, and then when you're ready to check your answers, go ahead and restart the video. Alright, so let's check our answers. For number 1, we see the basic fact for 5 times 800 would be 5 times 8. If we want to know the exponential form of 800, that would be 8 times 10 to the second power. To write the expression 5 times 800 using exponential form, then we would do 5 times and then use 8 times 10 to the second power to represent the 800. We'd use the associative property to change the grouping, and so now we're going to multiply the 5 times the 8 first, and then when we get that answer, we're going to multiply it times the 10 to the second power. And then for number 5, we write the final answer in standard form, and we know that 5 times 8 is 40, and then 40 times 100 means we're going to add 2 zeros to 40, and that'll give us a final answer of 4,000. So thanks for coming and joining us for our notes tonight, and make sure you bring your notes to our next class so that we can go over them and make sure that you have everything correct. Have a good evening.